Hi, I'm Barry Hitchcox. Many of you may recognise me as the Pony Centre volunteer who manages car parking on activity days, and I've been helping up there for around 12 years. I wanted to share a little about the positive effect Exmoor ponies have had on me as an otherwise totally non-equine person. I grew up in a North Berkshire village where there were three racing stables full of unpredictable and skittish racehorses. And we soon learned to be very wary and freeze if we met a string on their way up to the gallops. And so the message that horses were dangerous and had to be feared and avoided became ingrained and stuck throughout my life, really. And that is until I met Exmoor ponies, age 61. We first visited Exmoor Pony Centre while on holiday in 2008. My partner, Gail, who'd long been a fan of Exmoor ponies, dragged me up there very much against my will. But as we chatted with volunteer Jeanette and met the ponies, I began to feel a connection. I wouldn't quite say I fell in love at that point, but as I wrote in my diary that evening, even I feel excited by these animals and passionate about their fate. And so they say, as they say, the rest is history. Well, we were very fortunate in being able to foster a couple of ponies. And we had Freddie and Pasco. Freddie was a yearling from herd 23, whom Gail had handled over several sessions at the centre during the previous few months. Pasco was around a year older and from Kipscombe 423, which is now known as Foreland. We rented a couple of fields from our neighbours, and I really relished the daily routine of poo picking and hauling the hay nets up the lane, all a great source of exercise. And 3 years with these two boys really changed my life. But eventually we needed to move house. So Pascal and Freddie had to go on to other grazing, sadly. And it was heartbreaking.
What is it in particular that attracts you to Exmoor ponies?
Well, there are many things, but mainly I think it's the fact that they are such an integral part of Exmoor and its history. They are highly intelligent and responsive and quick to learn, but at the same time, they retain their independence. I learnt very early on in my fostering experience that they cooperate with us because they want to. And if they don't want to, nothing will persuade them otherwise.
What was your most embarrassing moment involving an Exmoor pony?
Well, once when taking the hay up to the field, they were mobbing me around the gate. So I very stupidly waved my arms in the air in a go on, clear off sort of gesture and got kicked by Pasco very hard on the thigh. I went down, but there was no serious harm, only to my pride. But I hope no one was watching. By then, I really should have known better.
What is your proudest moment involving an Exmoor pony?
Well, because of my deep fear of equines, I'd never been on a horse. So it was a real occasion when, on my 70th birthday, Lindsay very kindly arranged a short riding session for me on Fudge, something I never thought I'd do and will certainly never forget. And also, I must mention Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. We were lucky enough to meet her, that's three staff and myself, at the Simmons Bath big picnic for the national park's 70th birthday. And we had two ponies in a pen, and she came and petted them and chatted to us. But I'm not going to show you a photograph of me because I had the silliest hat on, and I feel constantly ashamed that I met Camilla in this stupid gardening hat.
What's the funniest moment you can recall involving an Exmoor pony?
Well, I don't know about funniest, but this could have been really, really serious. But yeah, we look back on it now and laugh. But when we fostered the ponies, the original plan was for them to share a field with our neighbours' two horses. And the horses had been moved out while Lindsay delivered Pasco and Freddie. And once the ponies had explored the field, the horses were returned. But wearing heavy turnout rugs, 16 Hands Ryan and Lola looked like charging horses, jousting horses, I'm sorry. And they charged down the field, rugs flying, eager to meet their new companions. Pasco stood his ground, but Freddie took one look and decided, I'm out of here. And he jumped from the field down into the road, and the field was about three feet higher than the level of the lane. So he jumped a hedge into the path of an oncoming car, and there was another vehicle coming from the other end. And he took one look at the cars and decided the lesser of the two evils was the horses. So he jumped back all the way over the hedge, and I've no idea how this little yearling managed it, but never let it be said that Exmoors can't jump.
What's your favourite thing to do with Exmoor ponies?
At the Pony Centre, I really love talking to people about ponies and also doing the stable tours. And it's lovely to see how people really appreciate getting information, because they're usually surprised, they don't know. But I just love being around the ponies and grooming them and talking to them. And I've recently taken to drawing them as well, because I have an artistic background. And that's going fairly well. I've always photographed them a lot. And also, I used to love sitting on the bench next to the field shelter and listening as they chomped away at their hay inside. And that was so calming and restful.
What is your favourite photo of yourself with an Exmoor pony in it?
Well, it's probably this one from, I think, April 2017. And this was when Pasco was in rehab from his hospital stable back onto the sand. I was remonstrating with him after he sort of nicked my arm. More for fun, I'd like to think, than out of any sort of aggression. But Pasco had sustained quite a serious injury to his right back leg and was confined to a stable for 10 weeks, eventually making a full recovery, thanks only to Lindsay's devoted medical care, with his dressings being changed twice daily.
Is there anyone who has inspired you in your journey with Exmoor ponies?
Well, I have to say, I wouldn't have ever had anything to do with Exmoor ponies if it hadn't been for Gail. But yeah, there are so many names one could think of, photographers and people. But it has to be the person we regard as Mrs. Exmoor Pony, and that's Sue Baker, with her books, wonderful books. And also, of course, Lindsay Green, our manager, is just so devoted, and I have absolute admiration and respect for her. And also, I would mention Sarah Weston and her books. Her lovely book on No Fear, No Force, which was the Bible, really. When we were handling, we were able to look things up and practice them. Yeah, she's a good influence, and I would recommend that book to anyone.
Was there a moment when you realised that you no longer just liked Exmoor ponies, but that you indeed loved them?
I was on my own poo picking with the barrow, and the ponies were nearby, and the only sound was them munching away at the grass and a buzzard overhead mewing. It was all so peaceful, and I remember looking up at Dunkery and back at the ponies and thinking, yes, this is it. This is where I want to be. And you've done it for me. It's all because of you.